Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ballin in the Boot. It's playoff edition, Road to the Dome. Well, we got one more week until we get to sell and find out what teams will land in the Superdome, the Caesar Superdome, at the end of the year. Once again, I'm your host, Jace Lejeune. Joining the panel, as we always are talking about, is our Gridiron Football writers, Alex Allison and Daryl Felker, alongside my good friend and buddy Grant Sachere of Crescent City Sports, River Sports Media. Grant does a great job, and always great to get his perspective as well. Guys, man, quarterfinals was something. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but obviously we're going to preview our semifinal matches as well and give our who we think is going to go to the dome. And at this point, there's great football everywhere. So there's no gimmies at this point of the year, that's for sure, guys. Let's go into Division One non-select. Let's go deep and well, right in the deep end at the very first part of the show, and that is Neville taking care of business. A great Cinderella run from Chalmette, but midnight struck for Cinderella as they lose to Neville 31-7, and they'll take on Central in the semifinals. Remember, this was a rematch of last year's playoff matchup that allowed Central to get a big upset over Neville to advance to the quarterfinals last year. That was a big win for David Semino. Now has a chance to have his biggest win of his coaching career at Central if they can get the job done at Neville, but easier said than done. But I know Neville is also motivated to win that one too. Central, they had to sweat that one out. Western Row was no pushover, as indicated by their schedule, and there being Western Row. It's not going to be an easy game there, but Central was able to find a way to get that done. So that sets up a very intriguing matchup in the semifinals between the Tigers and the Central Baton Rouge Wildcats. And we go to the bomb side of the bracket. We have Ruston. I mean, they really put on Southside. A lot of people thought this would be a closer game because of Jess Curtis coming in here for the first year with the Sharks, but it was all Ruston. This one, 49-7. They'll take on Destrehan. This was actually a rematch of a state championship game 2 years ago, which was won by Destrehan. And Destrehan, they scored 69 points in the win against Airline, 69-41. Malachi Gladney as well. 5 touchdowns again. He has been on a tear on the last couple of games. And, everybody was expecting a lot of points. I think a lot of people were surprised how Destrehan was able to pull away like they did early on. But, man, these are two awesome football matchups. Neville and Central at the top side and Ruston and Destrehan. Grant, I'm going to go to you first because you can say, disregard of seedings, Grant, these are the four best teams right now in this bracket, and we get to see all four teams going at it. Grant, how excited you are about both these two playoff matchups in the semis?
Oh yeah, just you got four powers right here. You got. Central. Of course, is not won a state championship since I believe it was like 1969, 1967. It's been a while for Central, but besides Central, but you got Neville, you got Ruston, you got Destrehan. Those are three of the biggest powers in Louisiana high school football right there. Three well-known brands around the state. And then, of course, Central has been proven to be a hot commodity right now. Last 2 years, they made it to the quarterfinals. This year's the first semifinal appearance since, 20? It's about 2010?
Yeah.
When Seth Edwards was there, maybe? I know it's been a while. I don't know the exact year. But it's been a little while. But Central doesn't make the semifinals often, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a huge accomplishment for this program. What a great job that David Simnell has done. But Destrehan's 10th seed. And I said this before the playoffs started, that Destrehan was the most dangerous 10th seed going to the playoffs, out of all the brackets. Just because, before the year, in my opinion, they were the best team in the New Orleans area outside of Carr. However, they had to deal, they dealt with, the quarterback being injured and Shane Ward got injured as well. But since then, Jackson Fields has been back from his injury. They've been undefeated since then. Malachi was it Gabney? Dabney. Malachi Dabney. Has rushed. I think he just rushed for his fourth 200-yard game this season as a sophomore. Yeah. And he's been on fire as well. So Destrehan really, if we're looking at a much healthier Destrehan team, they would be a top 4 seed,
Oh yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion, for
Yep.
sure.
And Malachi Dabney's been on a run. I mean, it's been maybe not. I mean, we went over a couple years ago, maybe like Puka Williams when he took over the team and everything. This was just a shocking run because he's only a sophomore, and that's not the guy
Yep.
that everybody was expecting coming into the season. But Malachi Dabney has definitely had a breakout season. Guys, now let's get to it. Let's break down these semifinal matchups. We're going to go to the top side of the bracket with Neville and Central. Neville, the number one overall seed. They lost at the end of the season to Ash. That's why I'm going to go to Daryl first to break down this game because I know he saw Neville drop that one to Ash at the end of the season. But they got to take on Central, which is a team that's definitely in contention to definitely make the dome, and they can definitely beat Neville. In fact, they did last year in the second round of the playoffs. So, Daryl, what's your thoughts on this matchup between Neville and Central?
I think this is going to be a really great game. I mean, Neville, they lost week 10, as you said, but they figured things back out up until that point. They didn't have any problems. So, I mean, heading in, I'm not really too worried about Neville. It's a home game for them. And I mean, it's going to be a really good game. But what I saw from Central earlier in the season, just on defense, and they have everybody back now. Their running back, he actually had his first game back last week. Got into the end zone. It was a great moment for him.
That's a great
But
story.
yeah, really great story. But yeah, I mean, I think Central is going to be able to pull this one out. I think the defense, the offense, just the balance, and yeah, I'm going to roll with Central. But I definitely think this is going to be a really, really tough game for Central, and they're going to have to fight to earn this W.
Okay, so Daryl's got the Central Wildcats advancing to the Superdome. Alex, for the first time, I get to hear your thoughts on this one. What do you think about this matchup between Neville and Central?
I'm super excited about it. So this is the game that I'm going to be going to this week, in large part because of what this game means for both teams. Because Neville's a team that we went into this bracket talking about Neville being a team that you might not trust very much in these sort of situations, and Central is a team that's very new to this, right? Second year with David Semino, you've talked about all of this. The win over Neville specifically last year being such a big deal. So it's a rematch of that big second round game in the playoffs. And these are two teams that I have some questions about. I haven't watched Neville, but I watched the team that Neville lost to in Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Ash is a great team, and it says a lot that they were able to beat Neville. But I have some questions about getting crushed the way they were. That I think it gives me some doubts about how they're going to look if they were to win this game going into the dome. But I also watched Central beat Zachary, and that was a rain game, so it's hard to get a gauge of it. It's part of the reason that I want to go to this game to get a better idea of what Central looks like as a team in a more hopefully neutral weather situation. Ultimately, I feel a little bit better about Neville. It's a bit of a road trip. There's a home team. This means a lot for this team. These are two teams that aren't always in the dome. You know what I mean? Like the other matchup, Russ and Destrehan, is a rematch of the state championship game 2 years ago, right? So there's just a little bit of a different feeling about it. These are two teams that I don't have as much confidence in general. I think it'll be a really close game. But go ahead and give me Neville at home here to go to the state championship game and defeat Central.
All right, so we got your split so far. So we got Daryl picking Central, Alex picking Neville. Grant, what are your thoughts in this matchup? And a lot of familiarity because these two teams did play last year.
Still got Neville to win. Neville was my pick to win the state championship this year. However, Central is playing some really good football. They beat a Westboro team 21-7. And also it's a return of Emmanuel Williams too.
Yep.
So it's good to see him back after he was in a pretty bad car accident at the beginning of the year that Jackson Furman, Kylan Thomas were both in. But Jackson Furman and Kylan Thomas were able to come back the next week. Manny was still in the hospital, so it's glad to see him that he's back in full pads and playing the game that he loves.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of concerned about Central's offense, right? Because Western Monroe defensively is a lot like Neville.
Mm-hmm.
And, they all play against each other. So I'm wondering how can Central pick up the pace on offense because they're going to be playing another really good defense in Neville. Of course, Neville, I know they've been scoring some points recently because Neville is, Parker Robinson's been a key factor in that. And so is Jalen Nichols. But that is still a defensive-minded team. A lot of their best players are on the defensive side of the ball. Their head coach, Mike Collins, is a defensive guy. Matter of fact, he was the defensive coordinator at Neville the past few seasons before taking over the reins as the head coach. So I'm wondering what he's going to cook against this Central offense. That's pretty experienced in his own right. But they have not, Neville's defense is probably the best defense they're going to play all year. I mean, if you really think about it. So it'd be very interesting to see how Central schemes up against Neville's and how Semino schemes up his offense against Neville's defense.
Okay, and you have Neville winning because
Yes.
you have your state championship.
Yes.
I'm gonna make sure we're split here because I picked Central to go to the Dome at the beginning of this bracket. I'm gonna go with Central, and the reason why is what I've been saying the whole time. Their defense is awesome. I know Neville's defense is good, so is Central's. I mean, you can make the case this is also the best defense Neville's playing against this year, and that's saying a lot because
Ooh, that's
I don't know. They played a lot of great defenses, man.
yeah,
it's not like Central's the only defense. I mean, they went up against West Monroe. You went up against Alexandria, which Alexandria they only scored 60 points against Alexandria's defense. Then you also got to think about Russ's defense, which is also really good too. I mean, Neville's played some legit defenses this year.
They have. I'm not saying that.
Great
defenses, but I think Central's the best one. I mean, I'm really like the Central defense, and I know we'll get a lot of flag for it, but I'm really high on this defense. I mean, the Mays twins here, they're really good. You got Stephen Rennell on the back end. Keep in mind, we've been talking about Cecilia's offense, right, and how great they've been. They shut down the Cecilia offense. They didn't even score. So This is a really good Central defense. I'm not discounting the other defenses. I think they're great as well. But I think this is going to be a really low scoring game. Is my point. So it's going to be a really low scoring game, and to me, having a senior quarterback and Jackson Furman, I think is going to matter in this football game. He's one of the better signal callers out there in the state of Louisiana. Nichols commit. Parker Robinson is a great quarterback as well, and I think his time is going to come as well. I can see Neville getting back next year and next year after that. But this is a Central team that they have all the pieces necessary to beat Neville. They did last year, so they have the confidence to do so. It's going to be a great football game, but I'm going to go with the Wildcats being this year for them to make the Dome. But that's going to be an awesome game. So we're split on this one, 2 apiece there between Neville and Central. Now let's go to the bomb side of the bracket, guys. Ruston and Destrehan. Ruston, we talk about them being defending state champions as well. Probably got overlooked a little bit when they kind of had that slump in the middle of the season when they lost to Neville. Air quotes, right? When they lost to Neville, lost to Ash. But this is a team with higher priorities. They want to repeat as state champions, and they're definitely been doing that. Their defense is playing really great right now. We know about their offense with Brantley and Hayes in the backfield too. And then Destrehan, I mean, I don't think anybody's playing hotter right now than Destrehan is. I mean, the emergence of Malachi Dabney at the running back position. You saw Jackson Fields, him coming back has been huge for this offense. They've been undefeated since he's come back. And I think in contrast to when it was a lower scoring game in the Superdome 2 years ago, there's going to be a lot of points being scored, I think, against for both these teams. So this is going to be a great one. Grant, I'm going to start off with you first here. Ruston and Destrehan. You can say, but besides Carr and Catholic, this is the top game in the state. You can make a case for it. So, what are your thoughts on this matchup? Who you have advancing? You don't agree with that?
There's some good ones, man.
I know.
There's some really good ones.
Yeah.
There's some really good. I mean, yeah, I get in terms of branch, yes, but like,
yeah.
I mean, there's some. I mean, the top one up there is really good. I mean, you got the other one. You got. I mean, I know it's Kurt. It's not. Kurt's not the same team, but it's still Kurt for Alexandria. You got. I mean, of course, a Carr Catholic, but then also you got Shaw and Madison Prep. That's gonna be a good one. But there's a lot of really good ones out there. Like. I don't want to say that was good because There's a lot of good ones this weekend, man. But anyway, I mean, you were going off of Brandon's, but it's still Rustin and Destrehan. And there's still, these are two programs that are very familiar with each other. Of course, it's like you said, it's a rematch of the 2022 Division I non-select state championship. Both are state championship winning coaches. Both are have pretty good defenses. Both have really good offenses. This is a game that I think a lot of people are paying attention to. Destrehan has been playing like a top 5 team in the state in the last few weeks. Especially considering the fact that Jackson Fields is now back. Their Malachi Dabney has been awesome. They already know about the receivers. And everything's going around. Rustin, kind of the same thing. They're picking up steam. I know they lost 2 straight games, but once playoff time happens, it's a completely different season, and they stepped it up. I mean, they destroyed Southside 49-7. I mean, what a beatdown that the Bearcats put on the Sharks. But I think Destrehan is going to win. I said Destrehan is going to be in the state championship at the very beginning. I still firmly believe that now, and I think they'll go up to Ruston and beat the Bearcats by a score of 21-17. It's going to be another low-scoring game between these two programs, and I think Destrehan. I don't know if they're going to win the state championship. Once again, I had Neville win it at all, but this Destrehan team this is the worst time to play this Destrehan team, especially even if it's a team like Ruston. Because Destrehan, when they're all healthy and they're all ready to go, they are always very difficult to beat. Remember, I think this is the 4th time in the last 5 years where they've been to the semifinals. Really, I mean, going back to 2019, 2020, 21, 22, and this year, there's 5 of the last 6 years that they've been to the semifinals. Last year, they got lost in the quarterfinals, but remember, that's when Marcus Scott had his health issue. So they were without Marcus Scott for that game. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you can make a case they could have been in the semifinals 6 years in a row. So, but yeah, I'm going to pick Destrehan to go to the state championship.
All right. I'm going to go to Daryl with this one because I know you've seen Destrehan play up close and personal as well. So, Daryl, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I saw Destrehan in the first round, and they won 30-12 versus Ouachita Parish, and I thought they looked really good in that game. And since then, they've elevated every week. They've scored more and more points, 63 in round 2, 69 in last week's game against Airline. And, yeah, I mean, this was a game I was thinking about it over the weekend. I was torn then. I'm still a little bit torn now because Ruston, I mean, besides the 2 losses to Neville and Ash, who are great teams themselves, they haven't stumbled, and the 49-7 victory versus Southside last week is a statement. So, I mean, it's tough. I think the Ruston defense is going to give Destrehan just a little bit of problems, but I mean, the Destrehan offense has been rolling in all aspects. As Grant said, Jackson Fields is back, Malachi Dabney, Jabari Mack. I mean, they're just loaded on offense. So I think this is going to be a really good game, and I'm going to roll with Destrehan as well. I was going to say Ruston, but I mean, they haven't lost since they got their quarterback back. It seems like they're just getting better and better every week, and I think they'll be able to go on the road and knock off Ruston. But I would not be surprised if Ruston pulled the victory out as well.
So we got 2 for Destrehan. Alex, do you agree with the crowd here, or you want to roll with Ruston?
This game's really exciting. These are 2 awesome teams. This is not a Destrehan team that I think you want to play against right now. I think Grant put that really well. But I think it's also a Ruston team you don't really want to play against. Mm-hmm. Ruston lost 2 games this season. Oh, they stumbled. Okay, they lost by 5 points to Neville and 4 points to Ash.
Yep.
I mean, those are 2 of the top 10 teams in the state of Louisiana. Maybe even higher. And Ruston spent half their time beating up on teams in Texas this season.
Yeah.
Which was sort of interesting. And then last week of the season, the same West Monroe team that just gave Central's offense a couple of problems, a little bit of a game, they just crushed 36-0.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a Rustin team that people want to play either. I'm going to take Rustin in this game. I'm really excited for this game because Destrehan, beating Airline, I don't think shocked that many people. Pouring it on Airline the way they did, I think did surprise more people, at least me personally. That if especially like if you're going to allow Airline to score 41 points in the cold in a fairly cold day, I'm like, oh, airlines probably pretty solid. No, just every score, touchdown, 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 touchdown was unstoppable. That offense is awesome. But I like Rustin's defense a lot, to be honest. I think this game will be a bit higher scoring than Grant projects it to be. Personally,
I agree.
I think this game might be played more in like the 30s.
Mm.
Um, and I think it'll look a lot like that Ash Rustin game. But I think Rustin's just a little bit better than Destrehan. I think it'll be very close. But give me Rustin to win the game. I'll say 38-34.
I'm
Um,
actually with you 100% on that, Alex, with that statement. I actually have Rustin winning too. For a lot of the season, before they had, like you mentioned, their stumble, we were talking about in the car and Rustin being 1A
yeah.
win most of the year until that happened. But I think this team is focused on the bigger picture, and that is winning a state championship. They did it last year. You get your quarterback back as well. That's when he really emerged in the state championship game last year. And Josh Brantley, the Tulane commit. You got Jordan Hayes in the backfield. Offensively, they got one of the best tight ends in the country as well, Ahmad Hudson. So offensively, they can compete with Destrehan, and I like their defense. I think their defense can compete with Destrehan's offense as well. I think it is going to be a little bit more of a higher scoring, especially going to be higher scoring than it was in the state championship game 2 years ago, because I think there was only one touchdown scored, I believe, in
Oh
that
wow.
a couple years ago. But yeah, it's going to be much. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring as well. I think it's going to be in the 30s. But I like the backfield. You got your running back, your quarterback from that state championship game a year ago, and they're also talented on defense as well. Now, Deschamps going to get their points too for sure because they're a great offense as well. But I think Rustin has what it takes to match up with them really well and limit. It's not going to be 60 something points. I can tell you that.
No.
But
Okay.
Russ's offense can score and keep up with that as well. And I think roster wise, it's tit for tat with Destrehan, but I think coming in the season, they were 1A, 1B with Carr. So I got Rustin actually going to the state championship as well. So once again, guys, we're
Yeah.
split on both matchups here, but it comes to show you how tough these games are going to be from now on. Well, guys, this is Division One non-select playoff bracket. I appreciate Grant for coming on this segment as well. Make sure to follow his work as well at CrescentCitySports.com. I know he's going to be posting a lot of feature stories over there throughout the week. And also follow our content at GridironFootballUSA.com with Alex Allison and Daryl Felker. I'm Chase Luzerne. And make sure to check out all of our shows, not only Division One non-select, but our other ones here on Ballin in the Blue.